The unexpected guardian. The emergency klaxon jolted Dr. Ilara Jensen from her research notes, its shrill warning echoing through her cramped laboratory aboard Helios 9. She glanced at the flashing red display. Hull breach alert. Outer Sector 7. Not again. The ancient space station, orbiting the gas giant Arethusa, was falling apart faster than its skeleton maintenance crew could patch it. Display external feed, Sector 7. Ilara commanded, pushing aside her microscope. The holographic screen flickered to life, showing the curved exterior of the station. Nothing seemed amiss until a flash of luminescence caught her eye. Something drifting, tumbling slowly against the backdrop of stars. Magnify Quadrant 3, she ordered, leaning forward. The image zoomed in, and Ilara's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't debris. It was alive, or had been. A crystalline structure, roughly the size of a large dog, with faceted limbs and what appeared to be a damaged central core that pulsed with weakening light. Fracture lines ran through its translucent body, leaking a luminous azure fluid that dispersed into the vacuum of space. Station. Activate emergency retrieval protocol. Coordinates mark. Ilara said, already reaching for her EVA suit. Priority Alpha. Request denied. The station's AI responded in its emotionless tone. Unknown xenobiological entities must remain in quarantine until classified by Central Command. Ilara swore under her breath. Central Command was 16 light-years away, and their response time for a backwater research station like Helios 9 could be measured in weeks, not hours. By then, whatever this creature was would be long dead. Override Jensen Alpha 7-3, she said, pulling on her suit with practiced efficiency. Medical emergency. Override accepted, the AI replied. Warning. Retrieval of unclassified xenobiological entities violates Regulation 15.73. Note my objection, Ilara muttered, sealing her helmet. And prep Medical Bay 2 for immediate xenobiological triage. 20 minutes later, Ilara maneuvered the small retrieval craft back into the airlock, her heart pounding against her ribs. Up close, the creature was even more extraordinary. Its crystalline structure contained intricate internal geometries that seemed to shift and realign even as its light dimmed. It wasn't silicon-based, as she'd first thought, but something altogether different. The azure fluid, which she'd managed to partially contain in a stasis field, exhibited properties unlike any biological substance she'd encountered in 15 years as a xenobiologist. The airlock cycled, and Ilara carefully transferred the wounded creature onto a hovering medical platform. Its light pulsed weakly, and the fractures had spread further, spiderwebbing across its translucent surface. "You're going to be all right," she whispered, knowing it couldn't understand her, but unable to remain clinical in the face of such obvious suffering. "I'll fix you." In Medical Bay 2, Ilara worked frantically, analyzing the azure fluid, identifying its properties, and synthesizing a compatible substitute to replace what had been lost. The creature's internal structure defied conventional scanning, forcing her to develop new protocols on the fly. Hours blurred into one another as she raced against time, stopping only to gulp stimulants and protein concentrates. Somewhere during the second day, as Ilara was carefully sealing the last major fracture with a molecular bonding agent she'd modified for the creature's unique composition, she felt it, a whisper of awareness brushing against her consciousness. She froze, syringe suspended above the crystalline surface. The creature's light pulsed, stronger now, and the sensation returned. Curiosity, gratitude, and something else. Fear. "Can you understand me?" Ilara asked aloud, feeling foolish but compelled to try. The light brightened in response, and Ilara felt a distinct affirmative impression in her mind. Not words, exactly, but meaning, conveyed with unmistakable clarity. "You're telepathic," she breathed, amazement temporarily overshadowing her exhaustion. Incredible. Over the next 3 days, as the creature recovered, Ilara learned to interpret its telepathic communications. It called itself something that translated roughly as resonance of first light, though Ilara shortened this to Res for simplicity's sake. It was young, barely into adolescence by its species standards, and had been traveling with others of its kind when they were attacked by what Res could only convey as the Sundering Ones. Res had been injured and cast adrift, certain of death until Ilara had intervened. The gratitude it projected was overwhelming, sometimes bringing tears to Ilara's eyes with its intensity. On the fourth day, Res was strong enough to leave the medical bay. Ilara had converted her personal quarters into a makeshift habitat, reinforcing the gravity controls to accommodate Res's density and installing specialized lighting that seemed to nourish the crystalline being. Station regulations strictly prohibited harboring unclassified alien life forms, especially in residential areas. But Ilara had stopped caring about regulations the moment she'd felt Res's consciousness touch her own. "Dr. Jensen, please report to the command center," the station AI announced, interrupting Ilara's observations of Res's rapidly healing fracture patterns. "What is it?" she asked, reluctant to leave her patient. "Unscheduled vessel approaching. Classification unknown. Commander Reeves requires all section heads." A chill ran down Ilara's spine. Helios 9 wasn't on any major trade routes, and scheduled supply ships came only once a month. Unannounced visitors were virtually unheard of. She felt a pulse of alarm from Res, accompanied by images of massive crystalline structures and a sense of authority and danger. "They're looking for you, aren't they?" Ilara asked, already knowing the answer. Res's light dimmed in confirmation, and Ilara felt its fear as if it were her own. Whatever, or whoever, was on that approaching vessel, Res was terrified of them. "Stay here," Ilara said firmly. "I'll find out what's happening." The command center was chaos when Ilara arrived. Commander Reeves, a career bureaucrat counting down the days until retirement, was sweating profusely as he stared at the main display. The approaching vessel was unlike anything Ilara had ever seen. A massive crystalline structure, similar in composition to Res, but on a scale that defied belief. It resembled a geometric orchid, its faceted petals slowly rotating around a pulsating core that dwarfed Helios 9. "What the hell is that thing?" Security Chief Kowalski muttered, hand resting on his sidearm, as if the small weapon could offer any protection against such a colossus. "We're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer Park announced, her fingers dancing across her console. "Audio and visual." The main screen flickered, and Ilara's blood ran cold. The being that appeared was unmistakably of Res's species, but where Res was relatively small and composed of clear, almost diamond-like crystal, this entity was massive, its crystalline structure tinged with crimson and black, facets arranged in patterns that somehow conveyed age and power. "I am Ambassador Vextar of the Crystalline Sovereignty," the being announced, its voice resonating directly in their minds rather than through the station speakers. "We seek a fugitive who has violated our most sacred laws. Our scans indicate the criminal is aboard your station. Surrender the abomination immediately, or face the consequences of harboring an enemy of the sovereignty." Ilara felt the blood drain from her face as the ambassador's gaze seemed to fix directly on her, even through the view screen. Somehow, impossibly, it knew. It knew she had Res, and it was coming. Commander Reeves was stuttering some diplomatic response, but Ilara was already backing toward the door, her mind racing. She had to get to Res, had to hide it somehow before the station's sensors gave away its location. She had saved Res once. She wasn't about to hand it over to those who would try to kill it. As she slipped away from the command center, Ilara made a decision that would change the course of her life forever. Whatever Res was, whatever it had supposedly done, she would protect it, even if it meant defying not just station regulations, but an entire alien civilization she knew nothing about. What Ilara couldn't possibly know was that her decision would soon place her at the center of an interstellar conflict that had been brewing for millennia, and that the small crystalline being she had saved was far more important than she could ever have imagined. The Sovereign's wrath. Ilara's heart pounded as she raced through Helios 9's maintenance corridors, taking the longest route back to her quarters to avoid security cameras. The ambassador's telepathic voice still echoed in her mind, its cold authority sending shivers down her spine. She burst into her quarters to find Rez pulsating with agitation, its crystalline form projecting fractured images of destruction and pursuit. "We need to move," Ilara said breathlessly. "They're here for you, and they've demanded we hand you over." Rez's light dimmed with what Ilara had come to recognize as distress, followed by a complex series of impressions: regret, fear, and something deeper that she struggled to interpret. Lineage. Heritage. The concepts blurred together in her mind. "Are you going to tell me what this is really about?" Ilara asked, gathering emergency supplies. "Why the crystalline sovereignty is hunting you?" Rez hesitated, then projected a sequence of images so vivid that Ilara gasped, momentarily disoriented by their intensity. A vast crystalline city, structures spiraling impossibly toward a binary star system. A central chamber where larger entities like Ambassador Vextar gathered around a magnificent throne formed from a single perfect crystal that pulsed with blinding light. And at the center of it all, a smaller crystal, eerily similar to Rez, being ceremonially placed upon the throne. The meaning was unmistakable. "Your royalty," Ilara whispered in disbelief. "Some kind of hair." Rez's confirmation came with another wave of images. Political intrigue, betrayal, a faction led by Vextar that opposed Rez's ascension to the throne. The attack that had separated Rez from its protectors wasn't random violence. It was an assassination attempt disguised as a pirate raid. "And now they're claiming you're a criminal to justify hunting you down," Ilara concluded, anger rising within her. "Well, they're not getting you." A sharp knock at her door made them both freeze. "Dr. Jensen." Commander Reeves's voice, unusually tense. "I need to speak with you immediately." Ilara motioned for Rez to hide in the small bathroom, then composed herself and opened the door just enough to reveal her face. "Commander," she said, feigning surprise. "I was just about to call you. I've been analyzing the structural composition of that vessel, and I think—" "Save it, Jensen." Reeves cut her off, eyes narrowed. "The ambassador specifically asked about you by name. Said something about detecting your mental signature connected to the fugitive." He ran a hand over his balding head. "What have you done?" Before Ilara could respond, the station's emergency alert system blared to life. "Warning. Unauthorized boarding in progress. Security breach in Docking Bay 3. Reeves's communicator crackled. "Commander," Security Chief Kowalski's voice, tight with panic. "They've bypassed our systems. Crystalline entities, at least a dozen, armed with some kind of energy weapons. They're heading for Residential Section D, right where they were standing." "Get to the command center," Ilara urged, pushing Reeves away from her door. "Initiate lockdown protocols. I'll handle this." "Handle what?" Reeves demanded, but the distant sound of weapon fire from the corridor junction made his decision for him. With a last suspicious glance at Ilara, he hurried toward the command center. Ilara slammed her door shut, engaging the manual override lock. It wouldn't hold them for long, but it might buy precious minutes. "Change of plans," she told Rez, who had emerged from hiding. "We can't run, and we can't hide. But I think I know what we can do." Station schematics flashed through Ilara's mind as she considered their options. There was one place on Helios 9 that might offer them an advantage: the Xenobiology Containment Lab. Designed to handle potentially dangerous alien specimens, it featured reinforced walls, independent life support, and most importantly, adaptive electromagnetic shielding that could be calibrated to various energy signatures. If Rez could help her adjust those shields to the specific frequency of its people's energy weapons. "We need to reach Lab 4, Ilara explained, gathering her research tablet and emergency medical kit. "It's 3 levels down, but there's a maintenance shaft behind the environmental control panel that can get us there without using the main corridors. Rez projected understanding, along with something unexpected, a warning, accompanied by images of the crystalline attackers somehow sensing its presence, tracking its unique energy signature. They can feel you, Ilara realized, like I can, but they're actively searching. She thought quickly, then reached for the portable scanner she used for field research. With a few rapid adjustments, she converted it into a crude electromagnetic pulse generator. This might hurt, she warned Rez, but it should temporarily disrupt your energy pattern, like throwing static into their tracking. Rez pulsed consent, and Ilara activated the device. The crystalline being shuddered, its light fluctuating wildly before settling into a dimmer, irregular pattern. Ilara felt their telepathic connection weaken to a mere whisper, but it was a necessary sacrifice. They slipped into the maintenance shaft just as the sound of crystalline footsteps approached her quarters. The narrow passage forced Rez to compress its form, facets grinding against each other in what Ilara sensed was considerable discomfort. They descended in tense silence, every metallic groan of the ancient station making them pause in fear. When they finally reached Lab 4, Ilara was dismayed to find Dr. Navarro, her research assistant, cataloging specimens. "Ilara," he said, startled by her disheveled appearance. His eyes widened further at the sight of Rez. "What is?" "Miguel, I need you to trust me," Ilara interrupted. "The station is under attack by crystalline entities looking for this being. They will kill it, and probably everyone who gets in their way." To his credit, Navarro assessed the situation quickly. "The containment protocols." "Exactly." Ilara nodded gratefully. "We need to recalibrate the EM shields to match their energy signature. Rez can help us identify the exact frequency." As they worked frantically to modify the shields, the station shook with distant explosions. The communication system crackled with fragmented reports of the invaders systematically searching the station, incapacitating anyone they encountered. "They're converging on the laboratory section," Navarro reported grimly, monitoring the security feed. "We have minutes, maybe less." The containment chamber was ready, its shields humming with power calibrated to Rez's specifications. But as Ilara finalized the preparations, Rez projected a troubling realization. While the chamber might protect them temporarily, they remained trapped. Eventually, the crystalline forces would break through, or simply destroy the entire station out of frustration. "We need a better plan," Ilara admitted, fatigue clouding her thinking. It was Navarro who provided the unexpected solution. "The prototype," he said suddenly. "The phase shift device." Ilara's eyes widened. The device was experimental technology, designed to temporarily shift matter slightly out of phase with normal spacetime, theoretically allowing safe transport of dangerous specimens. It had never been tested on sentient beings, and the power requirements were enormous. But it could work, she agreed. If we could shift Rez out of phase, the sovereignty wouldn't be able to detect or harm it. We could claim it died from its injuries. The approaching footsteps of the crystalline soldiers grew louder. Rez projected urgent agreement, along with something else, a complex series of coordinates and energy patterns that Ilara somehow understood were the location of its allies, those who had protected it before the ambush. "You want us to signal them," Ilara realized, while your phase shifted. The laboratory doors shuddered under a powerful impact. The crystalline forces had arrived. What happened next unfolded in a blur of desperate action. Navarro connected the phase shift device to the station's main power, causing lights throughout Helios 9 to flicker and dim. Ilara programmed the coordinates Rez had provided into the station's long-range communicator, encoding the message in the specific energy pattern that would be recognized by Rez's loyalists. The doors began to melt, superheated by some unknown weapon. Through the widening gap, Ilara glimpsed the imposing form of Ambassador Vextar, its crimson facets glowing with malevolent purpose. "Now," Ilara shouted, activating both devices simultaneously. Res's crystalline form shimmered, becoming translucent, then nearly invisible as it shifted partially out of phase with normal reality. At the same moment, the communication array fired, sending its message hurtling through subspace toward distant coordinates. The laboratory doors gave way entirely, and Ambassador Vextar entered, flanked by crystalline soldiers. Its mental voice radiated cold fury. "Where is the abomination?" it demanded. "Our sensors detected its presence here." Ilara stepped forward, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "The being you're looking for is dead," she stated, meeting the ambassador's gaze without flinching. "It succumbed to its injuries despite my attempts to save it. I was researching its biological composition to understand what went wrong." Vextar's facets shifted in patterns that conveyed suspicion and rage. "You lie," it accused, advancing menacingly. "I sensed the echo of its essence." "That would be the residual energy signature," Navarro interjected, displaying remarkable composure. "We've been analyzing samples of its biological material." He gestured toward the laboratory equipment, which indeed contained small samples of the azure fluid Ilara had collected during Res's treatment. For a tense moment, the outcome balanced on a knife's edge. Then the station shuddered violently, not from an attack, but from a massive energy surge in the nearby space. Alarms blared as the station's sensors detected multiple large vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation around Helios 9. The newcomers' designs mirrored the Sovereignty vessel, but with key differences. Their crystalline structures glowed with pure white light, rather than Vextar's ominous crimson. Their appearance sent visible shock through the ambassador and its soldiers. "The Royal Guard," Vextar hissed mentally, its confidence shattered. "Impossible." A new telepathic voice, powerful and commanding, resonated throughout the station. "Ambassador Vextar, you stand accused of treason against the Crystal Throne. Your attempted assassination of the Crown Heir has been documented and witnessed. Surrender immediately or be reduced to base components." The confrontation that followed was mercifully brief. Outmatched and exposed, Vextar and its forces were quickly subdued by the Royal Guard that boarded Helios 9. As the deposed ambassador was led away in crystalline restraints, the commander of the Royal Guard approached Ilara, its mental voice conveying profound gratitude. "We detected the heir's unique signature in your transmission," it explained. "You have saved not only our future sovereign but prevented civil war within the crystalline sovereignty." Only when the situation was secured did Ilara deactivate the phase shift device, allowing Res to return fully to normal spacetime. The reunion between the young heir and its protectors was a dazzling display of synchronized light and color that moved Ilara to tears despite her exhaustion. Later, as the Royal Guard prepared to depart with their recovered heir, Res approached Ilara one final time. Instead of the simple telepathic impressions they had shared before, Res now communicated with remarkable clarity, its mental voice distinct and eloquent. "Dr. Ilara Jensen, you acted with courage and compassion where others would have shown fear and rejection," Res conveyed. "Such qualities are rare and precious throughout the cosmos. The crystalline sovereignty has existed in isolation for too long, fearing difference rather than embracing it. When I ascend to the Crystal Throne, I intend to change this, beginning with a formal alliance with humanity." Ilara smiled, feeling both honored and slightly overwhelmed. "I just did what anyone would do for a patient in need." "No," Res corrected gently. "You did what only the best of your kind would do. And that distinction makes all the difference." Before departing, Res presented Ilara with a small crystalline fragment of itself. A gesture of profound significance in its culture, she learned. The fragment pulsed with a warm light that resonated with her thoughts, a permanent connection to the being she had saved. Commander Reeves, predictably, was apoplectic about the entire incident until the Crystalline Sovereignty's official delegation arrived 3 weeks later, bearing technologies and knowledge beyond anything humanity had previously encountered. Helios 9, once a forgotten outpost, became the center of a new era in interspecies cooperation. As for Ilara, she found herself appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the crystalline sovereignty, a position she accepted with the same determination and compassion that had led her to save a wounded crystalline being drifting in space, not knowing it would change the course of two civilizations forever. The small crystal fragment remained with her always, a reminder that in the vast expanse of the universe, it is not power or technology that truly matters, but the capacity to recognize suffering and act with kindness across the boundaries of species and worlds.